We're going to move on now. We've got a Q&A session with Robert Wilson, the famed visual artist and theatre director. He's originally from Texas, and he's worked with some of the greats, Philip Glass, Susan Sontag, among many, many others. And I will also remind you that he has this incredible project at the Castello Sforzesco here in Milan for Salone called Mother. So check that out if you haven't. I'm going to check and see if they are arriving, but I think Maria Porro, the president of Salone del Mobile, will be in conversation with Robert Wilson in a few moments. Okay, a round of applause for Robert Wilson, who's arriving now. And he's going to be in conversation with, as I said before, the president of Salone del Mobile in Milano, Maria Porro.
Buongiorno. Good morning, everybody. It's a great honor to be here, and it's a great honor to have here with us today Bob Wilson. So, I have a one page of biography, but I'm not going to read it because I'm sure that everybody in this room knows the genius that is sitting just next to me. I will try to make questions. When we entered the pavilion, we show you that we decided to switch off all the technical lights. So there's a question that came to my mind for you. Everybody is probably asking what is light. But may I ask you, what is darkness?
What is?
Darkness.
Well, without light, there's no space. So the light is what makes the darkness darker. My work is best known in the theater. And if you have to play a tragic situation, if you have to play the death of King Lear, you have to laugh a little bit with the death of the king. If you're performing Medea, how do you perform Medea? Wow. How do you perform Medea with a room full of children? You need light. Maybe she's an angel of death. But whatever we do, if it's designing a building, designing an exhibition, we need light, and to balance light with darkness. So I have a white tissue, and I put it against my black jacket. And the jacket is blacker because of the white tissue. Light is essential in construction of time and space. I studied architecture and was very fortunate that my first day in architectural school, Louis Kahn spoke, and he said, "Students, start with light." That had a profound influence on me. In the theater, usually someone writes a play, directs a play, designs a play, rehearses a play, and 2 weeks before they open, they light it. What if you light it first? What if you light it before the text is written, before the music is written? Start with light.
We had the honor to work with you on something that was already existing, the Pietà, the Unfinished by Michelangelo. So how was staying so many days in that space, working with light?
Well, great works are never finished. Great works are something we continue to think about in time. If you think of Hamlet of Shakespeare, you can read it one night, the next night you can read it in a completely different way. There's not one way to read it. There are many different ways of reading it. So Michelangelo said that the Pieta, his last work, should never be finished. My first idea in presenting it, which I wasn't allowed to do, I wanted to have a long tunnel outside in the courtyard that one would walk through in complete darkness and soundproof for maybe 10, 15, or even 20 minutes before you arrived at the room where the Pieta was. So you would have time to empty your mind. And the piece, Pieta, the presentation, it's 23 minutes long. And the first 2.5 minutes, the room is in darkness. And then we began with a little light and then more light. And after looking at it many times, it was interesting that in the structure, the architecture of the Pieta, the lines, there are only 2 lines in the world, right? Just 2. So you can make up your mind. Do you want the chair you're sitting in to be many straight lines, or do you want it to be a curved line? That's all. There are no other decisions, either straight or curved. So in looking at the Pieta, what was interesting was the structure of the straight lines in this curvature of the 2 bodies, of the mother and the son. And it was a way of constructing. All of my work simply is time-space construction. That's basically it. So, and start with darkness, 2.5 minutes light. I see diagonal lines. I see a curved line and the tension that exists between the 2. The decisions in time and space. My work is non-interpretive. It's something you can reflect on, think about in multiple ways. As I said, great works are never finished. You start with a question, right? What is it? And if you know what you're doing, don't do it. The reason to work is to say, what is it? So we continue thinking about it.
It's few days that I look through my books in my library to find back my memories of studying about theater and your work. And there's a book I found that is, the title is The New Theater, 1947-1970. And you are like in the 4th page. So, but at the same time, last night, on Monday, when we were at La Scala, looking at the night before jazz opera, object jazz opera, the feeling that everybody has, we were living through a contemporary moment. So what is contemporary for you?
Contemporary is discovering the classics. So, Socrates said the baby is born knowing everything. It's the learning process. It's the uncovering of knowledge. And for me, that knowledge are the classics. But each generation has to rediscover it. So, if we look at China, we go back 5,000 years ago. We look at the Romans, we look at the Mayans, we look at the Egyptians, the Native Americans, the Eskimos. It's the same mathematics that the artists are discerning. But each generation we rediscover it. They say the baby is born dreaming, with his eyes moving rapidly. What's he dreaming? Patterns that connect. So it's important to have a fair like this where we look at designers that are more established. We can look at what designers have done in the past. But what is very important is that's balanced with what the young kids are doing. So this is what will make this design fair important and rich. It's a balance of interest. It's curious how so many young people are thinking about design in multiple ways and about light. I remember when I was a young boy and I was in Denver, Colorado with my family, and I saw Gio Ponte's work for the first time. How beautiful it was at night. How beautiful it was early in the morning. How beautiful it was in the afternoon. How beautiful it was in bright light. But especially how beautiful he had designed the building for night, for a quarter moon, for a full moon.
This summer at the watermill, you will have a full program dedicated to child and kids. And that place itself, it's a stratification of cultures and influences and objects and people that pass through. So you talk about your childhood and who were your teacher? Who were the encounter that really shaped the way you think and work?
Well, I was very fortunate. I had, out of 22 years of formal education, and the last 5 years in studying architecture, Sybil Moholy-Nagy, she was married to Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, taught the history of architecture. It was a 5-year course, 5 years. And in the middle of the 5 years, in the third year, she said, students, get out your papers, take a pencil, and get ready. You have 3 minutes to design a city. Go. And she was serious. You had to think quickly. What is a city? That's the best class I ever had in school. It was in the early 60s. I drew an apple. Inside of the apple, I put a crystal cube. I don't know if you can see this, and I turned it in within 3 minutes. And she said, "What is that?" I said, "It's a design for a city. Our cities need something like a crystal cube in the core of the city. This crystal cube that can reflect the world, can reflect the universe. Like in a medieval village where the cathedral was the center of the village, the highest point, where artists showed paintings, artists played music, created music. If you were rich, if you were poor, you could walk in that door. It was the center of a village. But what helped me is to be able to see the big picture quickly. And so she was the best teacher I ever had. Her class during 5 years, she had, this is early 60s, she had multiple projections in back of her, showing images rapidly. A Byzantine mosaic, a Renaissance painting, a Frank Lloyd Wright chair, dot, 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 dot. And she gave a lecture that had nothing to do with what we were seeing. And she would give a menu during the course of the year, every 6 weeks. So it'd be October 1st, she was going to talk about Bauhaus. October 20th, about Bauhaus. October 28th, Bauhaus lecture. So now it's October 1st, and she's giving her Bauhaus lecture. She walked to the podium, put her handbag on the floor, opened it up, and took out a fish. And she put the fish on the podium. And she talked about Bauhaus architecture, and in back of her were these rapid images going throughout time. She never explained why that fish was on the podium. October 20th, we had Bauhaus lecture, and she opened the handbag and put an orange on the podium. And again, the images in back of her had nothing to do with her talk, and her talk had nothing to do with the orange. But it was curious, after 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, you began to understand things that you didn't realize initially without her explaining. It was amazing. Well, it's like growing up in a city or something. I was recently in Rome. It's so amazing just to go through this labyrinth of cultures, design. That's what's exciting about being in cities like New York.
And you have been traveling a lot. And Salone is a very global place because here we speak pretty much all the languages in these 6 days. But how did you do going from China to, you went anywhere in the world? But is there a language that every culture can understand?
Well, I've been fortunate to work in the Far East. I've worked in Japan and China, Korea. I've worked in the Middle East. I worked in Iran. North America, Latin America, throughout Europe. And I'm 83. And I think one reason I've enjoyed its success and working internationally is that all of my work, especially all the work in the theater, I design, I direct without words. So it's visually constructed. It's a time-space construction of images. And that's a universal language. So if I'm in Ghana, if I'm in Afghanistan, if I'm in China, there's no need for translation because it's constructed with images. I start with movement first and light. And people ask, like Maria, how do you direct a country in a language you don't understand? Well, it's directed visually and with the body first. So Martha Graham, the American choreographer, said, the body doesn't lie. So sometimes I'm directing a production and it can be in a language I don't speak, and I said, I don't believe you. They said, how do you know? But you don't understand our language. I understand by looking. The body doesn't lie.
Thank you. You talk about having the complete picture, the capacity of having the complete picture. But you always have such an attention to details and precision. Your rehearsal can go on also after the opening night. So is there always space for improvement, or there's a moment you stop?
Years ago, I was asked to direct Salome, Strauss's Salome at La Scala. And I had two singers, two casts. One was Eva Martin, and the other was Montserrat Caballé, the Spanish singer. And Eva Martin would scream the role of Salome. But Montserrat, she sang piano. And she told me, said, I never give more than 78% of my voice, because the rest, the completion is for the public. So it's important that we always give a space for the public, for what they hear, for what they see. It's important that we give a space for people to think. Wow, how many times have you gone to a theater or an exhibition and a building, and you have time to think? Time to dream. So architecture, spaces can do that. In a city busy like Milano, where can we go to a space that we have time to think? The way you have time to think when you're in a park and can watch a cloud passing. where our senses are not bombarded, that we have time for reflection. So be careful not to complete the action. Always leave a space for inner thoughts, for dreams. One of the great lines of the 20th century was Martin Luther King. I have a dream. In a silent protest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know how to follow that. How do I follow that? Thank you so much to Robert Wilson. I'm sure we could have sat and listened to you for another half an hour more in conversation with Maria Porro. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.